Okay, a breastfeeding battle is brewing. The deputy editor of a British parenting magazine has written an article about her own experience of motherhood, saying breastfeeding is creepy. Her feature headline was, "I've formula fed, so what?" Now, breastfeeding advocates are demanding an apology. Well, with their thoughts, we're joined by two Australian mothers, Pinky McKay in Melbourne and Ros Switzer in the studio. Ladies, a very good morning to you both.
Good morning, Kerri-Ann.
Well, Pinky, we do know this
Kerri-Ann.
is a fairly fierce discussion every time it comes up. What is your issue about this woman, and I know you do have some, her choice not to breastfeed?
I think it's everyone's choice to make a choice, but you are making that choice on behalf of your baby. But I think her comments that breastfeeding is creepy are pretty irresponsible as the editor of a baby magazine. I think she should get over and work for Home Beautiful, perhaps.
Indeed. I think she was also saying, I formula fed, so what? You advocate her choice, but, you know, we do know there's a lot of pressure out there.
Look, I guess there's pressure. Breastfeeding is the best healthcare prevention that we could implement. I mean, it prevents cancer. If you breastfeed your daughter, you've reduced her rates of breast cancer by 25%. You reduce your own rates of breast and ovarian cancer, your own chances. It's a huge health issue. It's an environmental issue. It's an economic issue for the whole country. But women do have a choice, but as I said, they're making that choice on behalf of their baby. So anyone who makes that choice shouldn't be pressured. It's not about pressuring the mother. I think it's really about healthcare professionals being pressured to get their act together and give mothers the right support and the right help so that they can do it. You know, I'm a lactation consultant. I go into mothers' homes and I see mothers who are utterly distraught. They want to breastfeed because it's intrinsic to them to continue this. They've given birth to this baby, they've nurtured it to birth, they want to continue on and breastfeed. And they are feeling devastated because things aren't going right, because they've been led up a gum tree, they've had bad advice, they haven't got the support they need, they're whipped out of hospital before their milk's even come in, or they've had perhaps a midwife. There are still lots and lots of things going on about a breast getting grabbed and a baby being shoved on it. And that's not good. Not good support for any woman. I would understand if any woman wanted to stop under those circumstances.
Indeed. And Ros, your choice was not to breastfeed.
I chose straight up that I wasn't going to breastfeed. I guess my main reason was probably based on stress for me. I know that my mother breastfed myself and my sister, so I figured I grew up okay. I'm okay with the fact that I can breastfeed my children. I was worried about being stressed enough as being a new mum without then stressing about how to breastfeed and providing the only source of food for my child. I'd seen quite a few friends go through the similar sorts of situations that Pinky just mentioned, where they're pressured into breastfeeding. They can't do it, it hurts them. They then give up because they are pressured to try to do it, but they're not managing to do it, so then they're feeling totally distraught about it.
So your kids are how old now?
4, 2 and 1.
Okay, have you had any health issues whatsoever?
My kids have had allergies, I can admit that. Allergies, tonsil issues, they've all had grommets, but I had all that as a child. So ear, nose and throat problems I fully expected. Now, I believe that's probably a genetic thing, not necessarily a breastfeeding issue.
What sort of pressure did you feel? Because also in this feature they talk about the milk mafia,
yeah, I like that.
And those who bully women into feeling guilty if they can't breastfeed or don't want to. What pressure did you feel?
Personally, I didn't get any pressure. I was very fortunate. I think because I didn't join a mother's group, I didn't have that kind of pressure. I think a lot of mums do find there is pressure from mothers' groups when perhaps mothers aren't being 100% honest with other mothers. They'll say, oh, everything's fantastic, my kid sleeps through, I'm breastfeeding really well. So they might feel inadequate if they're not able to do the same thing. So personally, I didn't, but I have had lots of friends who have. One of my friends actually did feel uncomfortable with the concept of a baby on her breast and what that might do for her body later down the track. So she expressed and bottle-fed her expressed milk instead of even latching on at all.
Now, Pinky, what about that view of some women who just don't feel comfortable doing it? And as a lactation expert, have you ever said, OK, maybe you've tried, didn't work, and you've gone, OK, it's OK, and given them the green light to go on to formula?
I actually say to women, what do you want to do? what is your aim, what is your goal here, and we work with that rather than say you must or you have to, because it's how that works for that woman and how it works in her individual family. But I do think if women know why they're doing it, if they get the right support, you know, I've had women who've been in incredible pain and you show them just a few simple tricks and they go, oh, it's that easy.
But
you know,
have you actually had women
terrible.
that you've given the green light to not to breastfeed?
I guess it's not. I guess if a woman doesn't want to, that's up to her. I mean, I've got clients who aren't
as
breastfeeding.
an expert, and I mean, obviously there are some women who don't know how to do it correctly. They need a little bit more nursing into this issue. But have you finally ever said, OK, it's not for you?
No, I don't give women advice either way. I allow them to make their own choice and support their choice, whatever it is.
Kim Kardashian created a few headlines by saying she was a bit offended by somebody in an LA restaurant breastfeeding their child, and naturally there's a lot of people who really got very offended. Also, which people haven't really talked about, she was also offended with, she put the baby on the table in the restaurant and changed its nappy. What do you think of that, Pinky?
I think the nappy thing is gross.
That's
I think,
terrible.
you know, we don't do that at the table. But I think the breastfeeding thing is fine. And look, Kim Kardashian was probably showing more breast than the lady breastfeeding.
What do you think?
Look, I don't have a problem with women breastfeeding. I probably, and I may offend a few people, I probably prefer that I think women should be covering the child as well. It's quiet time, it's personal time. I tried to give, whenever I bottle fed my kids, try to go to a quiet place and do that rather than being, you know, out with everybody else, because it's quiet time for them.
Well, what do you think, Pinky? Should there be sometimes, with some women, more discretion in breastfeeding in public?
You can absolutely feed discreetly. If you're breastfeeding in public, try and wear two-piece tops. Lift your top up from the bottom. If the baby's over you, you've got your top there, the baby there, you see nothing. Women are actually often more self-conscious about the wobbles down the side than the actual breasts hanging out. Yes, you can absolutely breastfeed discreetly. I don't see a problem with that either way.
Excellent. Pinky, thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. Good morning to you.
Thank you, Kerri-Ann.
And Ros Switzer, thank you very much for coming in to discuss it.
Thank you, Kerri-Ann.
OK, and your view, I've got a few more here. Another one's from Laura saying, people's view, finding themselves as sexual objects and second as parents. She finds that very saddening. I've got a few more of your emails we will be getting to, but if you've got another view after our discussion, just email us, kerri-ann@9.com.au. OK, we've got a lot more coming up, but first, here's an idea for you. Well, now to Queensland, where the government has announced a new breastfeeding policy for public servants. Under the scheme, female staff will be allowed to take paid breastfeeding breaks. So is this a thing, a sign of a thing to come? What does it mean for employers? Parenting expert Pinky McKay joins us. Good morning, Pinky.
Hi, Kerri-Ann.
Perhaps you can just explain a little bit more about this new policy. How will it work?
I don't know exactly how to work, but I think it's a wonderful move that women will be able to breastfeed or express or whatever they need to do to maintain that relationship of breastfeeding with their baby, because it's hard enough for women to say goodbye to their babies anyway and to wonder whether they're going to keep breastfeeding or not keep breastfeeding. And it also makes women aware that, yes, you can go to paid employment and breastfeed your baby if you want to.
Well, as I mentioned, it is Queensland. They will be paid for a 1-hour lactation break. But what happens to the babies for the other 7 hours of the day?
Well, they'll be with a carer. They could probably, I wonder if they could take 2 half-hour breaks, or the mother could express during her lunchtime and the baby could have a bottle of express milk with the carer. So, you know, that is a big move. It's a great move. And I've actually just put up on my blog this morning how mothers can actually work and breastfeed and manage it, because you have a supportive carer who will feed your baby express breast milk while you're away. You can express in one of your other breaks, perhaps a lunch break or a morning tea break, and your baby will get all breast milk. If you can't, well, maybe you partially breastfeed.
Indeed. OK, for the public sector, and this is, you know, Queensland public servants, how do you see this in terms of the private sector? Do you think they'd be able to cut this?
I think it'd be wonderful if they did, and I don't think employers need to worry about, you know, loss of income or loss of profit for them. I think it's actually a good move, because we all know mothers take sick leave when their babies are sick. They use their own sick leave. Now you've got your breastfed baby. If it's in a childcare centre, it's exposed to all sorts of bugs for the first time in its life. Now, baby gets exposed to bugs, baby's saliva transfers to mum's boob, mum's breast produces antibodies to those bugs, so those babies are actually going to be less likely to be unwell. So mothers, and I think mothers are grateful, you know, if you get support, you're going to do really well for your employer.
And that said, the public sector, and especially small business, have already said this morning they could find this very, very tough, and in fact they could then discriminate against young mothers in terms of who gets the job.
Well, the federal sex discrimination law says you are not allowed to discriminate against any employer on the grounds of things like pregnancy, potential pregnancy or breastfeeding. So they really can't be doing that. And look, we're not going to get hundreds and hundreds of women who are wanting to all take their babies to work.
Should women still have a choice whether they want to?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Well, Pinky, thank you very much. So we opened it to our audience this morning. Will this work for you if you're in the public sector? Will it work for you if you are in business as an employer, and most especially small business? How do you feel about this? Is it a good idea? Email us your thoughts, Kerri-Ann at 9.com.au. Pinky McKay from Melbourne, thank you.
Thanks, Kerri-Ann.
Good morning.